is it? Oops. Right. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Rabbi Langston, when did you become Italian?
What?
Nothing.
I didn't.
Rabbi Langzam, Ari Horowitz here.
I see you. How you doing?
Baruch Hashem, long time.
Rabbi Langston,
and I'm-
we can see
your
you
eyes.
can see your forehead. We can see your forehead.
Oh, a month from now. Okay, you see me now?
Kanei Nahara.
Yes.
You haven't changed in years.
That's don't lie.
That's okay. You just dye your beard white now. I understand.
Yeah.
Your mother used to say you have two choices: you get older or
Older
The other
or-
choices, not a choice. This is the choice.
not a good choice. Nobody gets younger. Let's put it that way. That's not one of the choices.
You're only young once, you could be immature forever.
That's right.
Well,
All right, we're listening.
You're only as old as you're only as old as you feel, right? We usually wait till like 9:05, 9:10, or like 10 minutes in just to give out
All
a
right.
couple minutes in. But
I'm ancient.
you're
If
not
I'm old-
ancient.
Yeah, old as you feel, I'm ancient. John, how are you?
I'm going to start with something
Less
I didn't declare,
ancient,
but
less
it's a great
ancient.
story I saw this weekend. Great story, and it was. I'll tell you the end of the story before I start with the beginning. It's about Reb Ruben Graz. Reb Ruben Graz was a Roman Rechov for many years, a Talmud of the Slobodka Yeshiva when it came to Chevron, the Talmud of the Altar. And Rabbi Galinsky told me today, I told him we talked about the story, that he remembers him speaking in Chevron Yeshiva. There's a man bent over totally, but it was a tremendous smile on his face. I remember he came in, he took his hat off, he combed his hair, and then he put his big rabbinical kippah on, and he started to speak. But, and always spoke with a smile. And then this is the story. The story is that at the end of the Ruben Graz learned in yeshiva, and the Alter was sick, and he was in a hospital in Tel Aviv. And Ruben Graz went to see him. And he walked in, and he says, "You're a Rusher." The Alter was very rough. He could be very rough, it seems. So he said, "Why? What am I a Rusher?" He says, I don't see on your face that you belong to the Amadushne Oneg. Your face should show that you belong to the Amadushne Oneg. It's an interesting expression, but the Amadushne Oneg is a very interesting expression. We say it every Friday night. Amadushne Oneg. Remember Rav Asser Zalman Rubinstein spoke about this also once. We're a nation that's fattened with pleasure. Amadushne Oneg. It's a crazy expression. Right? You have to show in your face that you're from the Amadushne Oneg. There was a tagline on Rav Ruben Graz that he didn't show that on his face. And from then on, he always smiled. It's a very important point that we should think about. That we have a schus of being part of Klal Yisrael. It's a tremendous schus. That was just an introduction to nothing. That's what I was thinking about. But it's something that we should all take for granted. We should realize it. We should be. We're thanking the Rebbeinu Shalom the entire time that he chose us. We're the Amidush Neonek. So
Yeah,
last
when
week,
you say Birchas HaTorah, when you say Birchas HaTorah, you have to say with a simcha, Shabbat Chabanu.
right? In fact, they asked Rashach how do you get the Simchas Yom? How do you get the Shabbat Chatano? We call him. How do I get the Simchas Yom? As soon as you start the Shemona Esrei, you get the Simchas Yom. We have to keep reminding ourselves. So we have to speak about something that's not B'Simcha, but Shivos of the Tammuz. Not Shivos, which one? It's a Sarbatevis, right? Didn't come yet. But it's interesting. The Slichus talks about three things that happen in Shivos of the Tammuz on the Sarbatevis, and it's good to speak about them. Number one is Melech Yavan. I'm reading the Slichus. Melech Yavani Yisanani Lichtov Das Yavanis. The Greek king, the Greek happened to be Ptolemy II. We spoke about the fact that when Alexander the Great died, so the kingdom in this part of the world was divided between the Ptolemies and the Seleucids. The Seleucids were in Syria and south, and the Talmids were in Egypt and North. And this Talmid the second, he demanded the famous story, demanded that students at Canaan should translate the Torah for him. The Septuagint, even though the Septuagint we have today is not the original one, we don't have the original one that they made. But they sat in 70 different rooms, they translated the Torah. And there's one of the things that we're saying slichas for, one of the things we're fasting for, is that translation. The obvious kasha is that you look at the ArtScroll Sfarim, the translation of the Chumash, Rashi, the Chumash, they have 10 Gaskomas of Gedolim. Mother Gedolim said it's good. So what was the problem with the Targum Shivim? Great Gedolim did it. It wasn't Stam people. It was Tanoim who did it. It wasn't. So what's the problem? The problem was Talmud the second didn't want a Chumash. He wanted another book on his shelf with the Iliad and the Odyssey, and he wanted just another book. He wanted it's an interesting book. It's a good book. There's no Kiddush in it. There's nothing in it. There's nothing practical in it. It's a beautiful book. So I want a beautiful book in my library. And when that starts, once we realize that people think the Torah is just a nice work, it's an interesting story, and that has no Kiddush and has nothing practical in it. That's a reason to say slichas, a reason to fast. And let's remember the Torah is our life, and that's a reason for the fast. The other reason that it's mentioned here is Ezra Sefer. So I heard in the name of Moshe Shapiro that usually a yahrzeit is not a time for being sad. The yahrzeit of the Shema moves up, and the famous one is Lag BaOmer, Shem Bar Yochai. So why is, and it happens to be we have two fasts that commemorate yahrzeit. This is Asar B'Tevis for Ezra Sefer, and some Gedalia for Gedalia, and those are, the people were killed. He was assassinated, and Ezra Sefer passed away. So why is it so bad? So I heard the name of Moshe Shapiro. We probably heard this from him directly. That those two events were very bad for Klal Yisrael. Ezra Sofer was the last of the Nevi'im. After there was no Nevi'im anymore, and our whole relationship with Hashem changed drastically when there's no more Nevi'im. And that's a reason. That's a reason for a fast. And some Gedalia, the last remnant of any kind of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, the time of Nebuchadnezzar, Gedalia was in charge. When he was assassinated, there was no real official Yishuv Eretz Yisrael anymore. That's a reason for a tightness. So we realize that that the end of an era for us is a very bad thing. It's no more Nevi'im, no more direct contact with Hashem anymore. There's no direct messages anymore from Hashem. That's a reason for a fast. And obviously, the third reason was that the siege of Yerushalayim by Nebuchadnezzar. And the question of why. So the siege ended with Tisha B'Av. So why is this so bad? In fact, this is the only fast that falls on a Friday. And many Rishonim say they would fall on Shabbos. We fast on Shabbos. And what's the problem with that? The problem with that is obviously that the beginning of the Korban is the worst. In a Tisha B'Av, the basic you say really burnt on the 10th of Av, but it was lit on the 9th. But the beginning of the Korban is worse. So you realize that when the Korban starts, that's bad. What's practically for us? I want to just tie it in a little bit practically for us. Interesting, last week's Parsha. This week's Parsha. We read Shabbos. Famous thing, I'll read it, and I have a Chumash in front of me. So I'll just open it up. Yosef reveals himself to his brothers, and Torah says very clearly, Yosef, Ani Yosef, O Davichai, V'lo Yuchlo Echov Lanos Oso, Ki Nivolim Bipanov. The brothers couldn't answer them because like they were overwhelmed by it. And the famous Medrash, it's Omer of Abakon Bardala, that Oy Lono Liyom Yom. From this we say, it brings it into us. Oy Lono, woe to us that one day we'll be confronted by the Rebbeinu Shalom, that he judges us, he'll give us rebuke. Well, how are we going to react? And the famous kasha is, what I mean, the reaction is no problem. The reaction, we're going to end up again if we messed up. What's the reaction? But you see from this an unbelievable thing. You see that the busha alone is oilon, the busha that they had. So imagine we're going to have to answer to the Rebbeinu Shalom everything that we did, and the tremendous busha that will be there. And in fact, the Rebbe Chaim Shalom says, what did Yosef say after all? What did he just say? Ani Yosef. He didn't accuse them of anything. He didn't say anything. But he says, I'm the guy that he said he could never make it. I'm the guy who was a loser. I'm the winner. And that bush alone is, and that we have to be inspired by that to realize that the reason that the Churban comes, the reason that there's a Churban, is because we don't think about these things. We don't think about that we're responsible for our actions. It's the message of a Sarah B'Tevis has to be that there's a Churban, but the Churban is our fault, and it's our fault if it doesn't happen again. It's one other idea that we have in this week's parasha. Yosef Tzaddik is Yaakov Avinu was on his deathbed. And he calls in his son Yosef, and he says, "I don't want to be buried in Mitzrayim. I want to be buried in Israel." Yosef Tzaddik is the viceroy of Mitzrayim. He's the prime minister. He has tremendous power, and he, of course, if his father's dying wish is to be buried in Israel. And then he says, "You shove at me." He says, "You swear to me. You swear and make a shvuah to me." So Ramban has a kasha. What are you making the shvuah for? It's Yosef Tzaddik. Your death wish. You know what Yosef Tzaddik is going to do his father's death wish. So Ramban says, interesting thing. He says that he was cautious that there's all kinds of things that come up. Paro may say no. It may be too hard. It may be all kinds of things can come up and prevent him from doing it. And even Yosef Tzaddik could have been, but the extra step of Shavua, that push that extra direction. My Rosh Yeshiva Zatzal compared this to an interesting Chazal that says that brings three cases where the Torah says something that praises somebody, and it said had they known more, like the famous is V'yatzel Reuven Yoda, Reuven saves Yosef. And Chazal tell us that if Reuven would have known that's going to be printed about him, he would have picked Yosef up on his shoulders and run back to his father. And why didn't he do it? He probably said, my brothers won't let me do it. He had all kinds of reasons not to do it. But had he known that Torah was going to write that, he could have brought it to another level. Could have been.
Did we lose him or did you lose me?
Yeah, he froze.
Frozen.
He froze. Okay.
He froze.
Awesome.
But he'll probably unfreeze in a minute.
All right. It's like moments captured in time. Oh.
In the meantime, how you guys doing? Shalom Aleichem to all of you. Wow.
Shalom.
Shalom Aleichem, Rebbe.
Every
Send
night.
YG, a text message to let him know maybe he should restart. Or
Yeah, every night, Rabbi Langston gives a 15-minute Chol Vavos Shiur. Please join.
Where, when?
Not this time. Simcha's what? At 9:15, right?
Is it on?
Well, okay, 2:15.
2:15 Eastern.
New York time, 9:15.
It's usually at 2:15, yes.
Yeah, we have to get something to put you on.
I think someone else should.
You want to realize each
How
one.
could you? Oh,
We're back.
You missed it. How long did you miss before?
We're out for 3 minutes. 2 minutes out. We started schmoozing.
I just mentioned that three people in Tanakh, the Chazal tell us that had they known the Torah, the Torah was going to praise them, they would have done the extra step. One of them is Reuven, the Yatzel Reuven. Reuven would have known that he would have been picked up as his shoulders and brought Yosef back to his father. And Aaron would have known that it was be praised for feeding Moshe Rabbeinu, that Moshe Rabbeinu with a brass band. And Boaz would have been praised for feeding Ruth. He would have given her fat and geese. He would have been able to give her much better food than he gave. So why did they do it? So they didn't think that they didn't go to that extra step. And each of us have to realize each one of us can be inspired to do another step. I remember a few years ago we went to Rafael Zach's and he told the guys, he said, we want you to realize that we're writing our own Sefer Torah, and everything that we do has to be recorded. And it'll be exactly recorded, and we could realize, you know what, I could have done much more. To realize that little thing I did could have been a big thing. And that should inspire us, and that should say, if we continue to inspire us and realize that we can go that extra step and do much more. And we can really become the kind of people we're supposed to be. And if each one of us gets to that point, and for sure that the last times we'll have was the Sarah B'Tevis, and by the time that the Shivasim comes around, we'll have a Mashiach here. We have to realize that we have the potential to bring him. Each one of us has the ability, and if we just push ourselves that extra step and realize that imagine if you knew that your tefillah and your learning and your chesed would bring the Mashiach, and that will go down in history. Imagine how inspired you would be. So that's each one of us has to think about doing that. Okay, we can move on.
So we spoke about last month.
Thank you.
We spoke about last month the idea of also incorporating like a Q&A, ask the rabbi type of thing with some feedback. So let's spend a few minutes doing that. If you have any like thing to come up and learning, just general questions that come up that you want to just have an open forum to ask the rabbi, go for it. And that could definitely also be a lot of fun, and maybe we can embarrass them a little bit too. But all the good stuff.
We have at least 2 rabbis here.
You have 2 rabbis here. So if one doesn't feel like answering it, we can throw it to the other one.
2, I see 3 or 4.
2 or David rabbis. 2 or David rabbis.
I do have a question for the Rosh Hashiva.
Oh,
yeah.
Rabbi Solomon, go ahead.
Yeah. So I started going to a new shul during the pandemic. It coincided with my Avelut, and they assigned me a seat in the shul. So my question is, do I need to change my seat on Shabbat, or I started going to the shul during Avelut? Do I need?
Since you started doing Avelut, so I don't think you have to change it. That's your seat. You know what I mean?
That's my seat.
That's your seat. That's right there. I'm not a rabbi, but that's right there.
You know,
that's the rabbi, but I don't like the paskin. But that's not that's your seat. You don't have another seat. You know what I mean?
I don't have another seat.
If you told me you're davening the whole year someplace, so the rules on Shabbos we do change our seat. Minig gets machlokas a little bit, but minig gets to change your seat. But I don't think you have to do that in your case. And they should only have simchas from now on.
Amen.
How's your mother managing?
Not great.
So maybe you bring her.
Yeah, that's not so. Unfortunately, that's not so simple. She has some health issues that she'd have trouble getting treatment here. So that's.
All right.
But she has to be willing to leave there too, which also isn't so simple.
Only hear good news.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. It's on the parsha yesterday. So in Perik Mem Hey Pasuk Aleph says V'lo Yochol Yosef L'Sapik L'Chol Nitzavim Alav V'Yikra V'Yitz V'Hotziu Kol Ish Me'alai. He sent everybody out. Lo Amad Ish Ito B'Tzvada Yosef Elachav. The next pasuk says V'Yitenes Kol B'Vchi V'Yishma Mitzrayim V'Yishma Beis Paro.
I had the same questions you have.
Thank you. Okay.
What's so funny? It's a good question. So what do you say, Rabbi Langsam, to that? What I said.
Let's hear what you say.
I said that it's not exactly in order. That happened after. In other words, that part of the pasuk happened after they removed. So.
Do you want to hear what I was thinking?
Yeah.
Okay. Rashi says on the second pasuk, Vayishma beis paro beso shel paro klomar avadav uvnei beso, that they heard. So maybe avadav uvnei beso are actually Yosef's sons, maybe his wife, because we know Manasseh and Ephraim did work for him. And so maybe the people who heard, those are the only ones. And a raya to it, because Rashi then goes on and says, Ve'en zel lashon bayis mamish, ela kamo beis Yisrael, beis Yehuda. So it gives you 2 examples of beis Yisrael, beis Yehuda. So it's Jewish people. Yes.
Okay.
All right, but okay. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I've been learning this year. I'm learning Dasakim Balatoisis. So Dasakim, he brings that when Yosef tells everyone to leave his chambers, and he reveals himself to his brothers, and he says Machartim Oisi. So the second pshat in the Dasakim Balatoisis is that didn't include Binyamin.
Right.
Because Binyamin didn't own Mechira. That's what he says. But we know if Rashi brings Chazal say that Binyamin tells Yosef that he had 10 sons, and he named them after the tsaris that Yosef went through. So the question is, how much did Binyamin know about Mechiras Yosef?
I don't. You named this. None of the names talk about what happened to Yosef exactly. It just happened to what their relationship basically the names are. So I'm not sure if he knew. I don't know what he knew. I don't know if he knew anything.
Was he with the brothers when they sold him?
No, that's for sure not. No, he was not involved in the sale at all.
But he said Taraf Yosu, right? So Taraf Yosu was there when Yaakov went into Avelus.
Right, but he signed.
So
Yaakov said he was Taraf. He was starved by an animal, maybe.
So if he wasn't by Mechira and he wasn't by there and he didn't know, he didn't see.
But he knew he was missing, and he was missing, and he knew that he may have been. He was missing. That's what I think.
What? So he may have felt that Yosef is still alive, not like Yaakov Avinu thought.
Yeah.
Or
Yaakov, I guess maybe in the back of his mind, Yaakov Avinu also thought it was hoping.
Well, it could be he heard from the brothers that they sold him also. Couldn't tell Yaakov, but
I mean,
they made a cherem though. I don't know if they broke their own cherem.
they made a cherem
Right.
that no one reveal it to Yaakov, right?
yeah, but why wouldn't Hashem just reveal it to Yaakov? Like they got a good
He
connection.
was part of the cherem. That was part of the thing. They included him.
Including God.
Yes.
yeah, it's to make a minion.
It's a Rashi said.
But how does it?
Another thing that I heard,
Yitzchak knew also. Yitzchak also knew, I read, but
Right,
he
Yitzchak
couldn't
knew.
reveal it because of the Cherem.
Right.
but
How
I
does that-
heard
That sounds
one
very
from-
powerful.
from Rabbi Dunder. And the other time in Kiryat Sefer, Rabbi Dunder was supposed to die many times. Dunder's a dying in Kiryat Sefer, and he said, you know what, that Yaakov had Yosef and Yaakov had a very close relationship before he left. I mean, try him. He said Menashe. He didn't go himself. He said, why not? Because Yosef never wanted to reveal to Yaakov what happened. He was afraid his father would ask him what happened. He was very makbid that he would never reveal to Yaakov what happened. And he stayed away from Yaakov as much as he could. Amazing thing. Loved his father so much. He was afraid that he might say something inappropriate. And he went that extra step, not the very powerful thing.
I think ostensibly Yosef could have easily just as died in Mitzrayim if they potentially could have stopped it by revealing what happened. Wouldn't that have been a benefit? I don't know. It's we weren't there, you don't know, but like it just trying to look at it from that perspective. Also, if they saw Yaakov suffering all those years in Avelis, one would think. I don't know. It's
And it's interesting that Yosef dies 10 years before his next brother, younger than the older brothers. And the 10 years is because they say, because he heard his father being called Eved 5 times.
Right.
The question is, if he heard it 5 times, why was it 10 years?
Like they're translated, right? They heard,
That's right. They heard it twice. He heard it in Hebrew and in Egyptian, so he had to one for each time.
Well, what should he have done in that situation?
I don't know. Okay, whatever. I mean, he was. Why he did what he did is like a strange thing, right? He had to put him through whatever he put him through. That's.
Well, alternatively, what language were the brothers speaking?
They were speaking Lashon HaKodesh, and he was speaking Hebrew.
So why would a translator understand Lashon HaKodesh?
Well, that's what a translator does for a living, right?
It was Menashe, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But how did he? Was that really asking? How did they find the translator from Lashon HaKodesh?
Who spoke Lashon HaKodesh? It had to be a Jew.
Well, it could be somebody who lived in Eretz Yisrael and learned the language. Who knows?
No, I just read, I forget where, that the Canaanim spoke Lashon HaKodesh also. That's a Shaila. How was it a raya that Yosef was Yosef from?
That's a good answer. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but then you go into the problem. Why did Paro know?
Why did Paro not know Lashon HaKodesh?
Why couldn't Paro learn Lashon HaKodesh if anyone could learn it?
See, the rabbis don't answer questions. The rabbis just bounce off each other and create more questions. This is
Maybe
create another
Lashon-
question, Rabbi.
Well,
Lashon HaKodesh had that inherent kedusha that you couldn't acquire by a guy unless you were in Eretz Yisrael.
Well, the whole shtick is that
It might be.
the miracle of the Septuagint was that they put 70 rabbis in 70 rooms and they came out with the same translation. But the real miracle would have been to put 70 rabbis in the same room. It came out with the same translation.
That's what Pudner said.
That's right.
That's a modern comment on that story.
That's right. Anyway, anyone else have any other questions? Any other burning questions to the rabbi?
You were saying Rabbi Langzam has a nightly shiur, you were saying? When is that?
Not 2:15 p.m. Eastern.
15 Eastern time, yeah.
Want to get invited? Simcha, get his address. I'll send you his address.
Simcha, yeah.
I'll send you his address.
Yeah.
I'll send
Just
you-
put it on the WhatsApp.
What's
What's your phone number? Oh, send me a phone number.
Or David has a WhatsApp?
Yeah. You know, how are you been joining us with email?
Yeah, just by email.
Okay, if you put your phone number, your WhatsApp phone number in the chat, I can add you to the group. Also, I'll send out an email, a general email to everyone, see who else would like to join the Simcha, I assume you're okay with that.
Ryan, you should also know that that WhatsApp group that you sometimes post on the Raman is really just people in New York. I mean, there
Yeah, I
could be
know.
people in other states. Yeah.
I don't know if there's any WhatsApp groups to that effect though. So.
Mm.
All right, listen, Rabbi Isai, it's not a real share. Me and Simcha had a chavrusa in Chovis Halvamis. We're learning Shar Bechina, and everyone's invited to join.
It's very, I enjoy it very much. I have
A lot of times, Rabbi Berry joins.
I get a lot of chizik from it, you should know.
So anyone wants to join, our pleasure.
Cool.
I got a lot of chizik.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
And especially now with Rabbi Victor Miller's extra.
Yeah, we're doing Shar Bechina with Victor Miller's Sefer.
And it's an extra connection. It's really, it really does something for me. I don't know if it does it for everybody else, but it does something for me. Just to think about some of the things he says.
Also, if I'm sending out, not on email, but on WhatsApp and things like that, and Facebook, you can join there too. Rabbi Ben Zev's daily Shabbos Shiur. It's like 15 minutes long. Picks a malacha and goes for it. So it's definitely it's a fun thing to listen to as well. So definitely join the Facebook, either the alumni or the main one. I posted in both spots, and I put it on the WhatsApp group and a daily chap of Torah. Okay.
Everybody send your phone numbers to him. We'll take care of it right now.
Yeah, I'm
Harry,
actually.
tell me quickly before we say goodbye. How is Ashland treating you?
Can't hear you.
I think that's for Harry.
Me?
No, Harry
Solomon, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
My biggest challenge, it's hard to work when you feel like you're on vacation.
Okay, you're working now. What are you doing now?
I'm working with Rabbi Green.
Yeah, I was about to say, now that's a problem. I'm going to tell your boss then.
It's a Corona world. Rabbi Green, what are you doing? Are you open?
What do you mean? We're not open, but we're working. What do you mean?
I mean, are guys going to classes or anything?
On Zoom. I teach guys on 4 continents. On one morning, I could teach guys in 4 continents in like 6
Which
times.
continent you're not doing?
But John, you have to say
5
why you're teaching people from 4 continents.
Because Ari Salamat recruits them, these non-from kids to YU. I would only be part of YU because Raganowski that I could do Kirov. And they all come. A guy from South Africa. What?
Don't blame me.
I want to create, I often tell guys to go to Stern and say, if Rabbi Grunovsky can meet his wife there, so can you. That's actually the line I use for them often.
I didn't meet my wife in Stern. I met her at 10 Bar Shop.
Are you still running the camp, John?
I was in the YU Colo. I was in the Colo in 10 Bar Shop.
Yes, and I run a camp for high school boys that does not have enough kids signed up yet. So if anybody wants to,
I always say I only met her because I went to the infirmary, and I thought she was flirting with me, but I didn't realize she was doing this talking to the kid, the 6-year-old kid, in the next bed, just like to talk to me. We're having a nice discussion. Okay, anyway.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
All right,
everyone.
good to see everybody.
Thank you very much.
Shkoyach.
yeah.
Good to work.
Naftali